Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 9 at Del Mar on Sunday. Let's throw up the field, and it is a full field of competitive 2-year-olds in the Grade 3 Del Mar Juvenile Turf. $100,000 is the purse. 14 in the body of the race, 15 and 16 also eligibles. You could make a case for 7 at least.
Yeah, of course. It's just a typical 2-year-old stakes race, Dan. Everybody's non-N1X eligible. It's kind of a wide open race. There's a lot of improving to do in here, and trips will be obviously very important in a big field.
Well, let's at least try to figure out where these horses will be after the first half mile or so with the Timeform US pace projector. And you really don't want to pigeonhole these horses into a particular running style just yet. Many of them have only run once or twice, but from what we've seen, the 11 Pally Kitten looks pretty quick, and he's going to be stretching out in distance for the first time in his career. I expect him to be up close. Show of Force showed speed going 2 turns last time out. It'll be interesting to see if he can get to the top against some stretch-out sprinters.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess I wouldn't be shocked if this pace was fast, Dan. You have a bunch of horses stretching out in here. You have a handful of surface switchers as well. So there's a lot going on. It's not that easy to decipher, where these horses are going to be early. I guess maybe just due to the fact that he has the outside post, you might see Pally Kitten firing out of there.
Won't be surprised if this pace is hot, and keep an eye on Scipio if that's the case, the number 8 with the fastest Timeform US late pace rating. Let's start things off with the number 1, Artislas, who I thought ran very well in his debut going 5/8 of a mile. Let's watch that race right now. The son of Catalina Cruiser settled off of the lead, got to the outside in the stretch, still has some work to do, and then sweeps by these 4 horses in front of him. He beat a couple of next out winners, with the 6th place horse coming back to graduate with a 73 buyer at Del Mar.
I thought he looked good winning this race. I mean, he got a really good trip in this race. Very clean, just off the pace, switched to the outside in the stretch. So you saw how easily he outfinished those horses, Dan, going short. I liked his debut quite a bit. I thought he had a lot of things go his way in there. He also got a great post in here for the stretch out. I'm not way against him. I got him in there. He's the kind of horse I want to use if he's the right price. There were some things that I didn't like about him, probably starting off with maybe his pedigree a little bit. I don't know about you. The Catalina Cruisers on turf, don't love them.
Not really a big fan of the Catalina Cruisers on turf. It seems like there is a little bit of turf on the bottom of this pedigree. And I think the best case is the inside post, where at least stretching out, he should show a little bit of tactical speed and can save some valuable ground while tucking in just off the leaders. Run for Kidder is stretching out off 2 sprints. The second one was his turf debut, a race we're going to show you right now. Now, keep in mind, this race is against Calbreds going 5/8 of a mile, and the pace is not fast at all. They went a half mile in 46-1 in a 5/8 of a mile dash. Run for Kidder holds everybody at bay.
Yeah, he did have a really soft trip in this race, and he's just going to hold on here. He's staying on pretty nicely at the end here, Dan, but doing so off a pretty easy trip as well. Both of his races are good, I think. I think he's run well both times, but he's done it against weaker competition.
The 7th place horse came back to place against Calbred Maiden Specials with a 60 buyer. The 3 is Anchor Dub. This is a filly that's entered earlier in the week, but it appears Mark Latt's going to run her here against the boys. She raced once overseas in Europe, and I thought she ran pretty well, rallying from off the pace to get up in that 7/8 of a mile affair. I did see the workout on turf, and Glatt had her in with an older Phil D'Amato stakes horse, and she held her own.
That's interesting. I mean, she's an interesting horse in here. She was a huge price in her debut. It seemed like they didn't like her that much, but I don't know, man. I thought she looked good winning that race. She won that race pretty easy. It felt like she had a lot of improvement still in her too. She's very interested in here. I'll be interested to see what kind of price she is, though. Pratt's coming out to ride. And I feel like she's not going to be much price. I don't want a short price on her.
The mile shouldn't be an issue, but Mike did mention the big price. She did beat one next out winner, and several others came back to hit the board in their very next start. Coach Chuck's going to stretch out with some pedigree to get the distance. Maybe this distance of 5/8 of a mile in the debut was just a bit short for Coach Chuck, who settled in behind some horses here, is going to ease out into the stretch. And of the first-time starters, did best. These are a couple of experienced horses that finished ahead of Coach Chuck. He can build on this effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It did feel like maybe the 5 furlongs is just way too short for this horse. He angled to the outside there. He was running on at the end. I mean, of course, never looked like he was going to win, but I like the way that he was staying. It just feels like more distance is really going to help this horse.
Show of Force is up next, and he stretched out successfully in his second lifetime race, the race we're going to show you right now. This is his turf debut, and he showed good speed from the start. Consider they went sub-22 for the opening quarter, and then Mike Smith was very aggressive with him to try to put this field away on the second turn. He's crying out for the wire, but understandable because of all that early work.
He ran the best race in here. There's no doubt about that. This pace was fast early. He dealt with it and he kept going, opened that clearly, and then held on to a horse that was really running at him at the end. I really liked that performance. I think he deserves a little bit of extra credit for holding on at the end, but I don't know if this pace scenario is going to be that much more comfortable for him this time, Dan.
They've treated the 6 Ivan the Great like a pretty nice horse after being nosed out in his debut, going 4.5 furlongs. They shipped him out to Churchill Downs, where he acquitted himself pretty well in the Bashford manner, and then they stretched him out for the turf debut, and he ran just fine. Now, this race was a closer's race. To me, it looked like the pace collapsed, but Ivan the Great beats 3 of these. Once he straightens out in the stretch, he puts them away.
I agree. I feel like he just got, in some ways, I just feel like he got the best trip in this race, Dan, and he sort of took advantage to get the job done. I don't really want to knock him too hard because you're right. They have treated him like a good horse from the start, but he just missed in his debut. I didn't like that performance. His Bashford manner was fine in a race that set up well for him, and I didn't think he was necessarily best in that race we just watched either.
Tis Happy is the number 7. I was a bit surprised they debuted this guy on the turf, considering his pedigrees, by Run Happy out of a Tis Now mare. He handled it just fine, going 5/8 of a mile. Now, there's not a lot of closing going on. This pace is moderate, and Tis Happy was right there on the outside, but he has to fight off this favorite down towards the rail to beat him. It was a game performance for Tis Happy, who was overmatched next out in the Best Pal.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I don't care too much about the Best Pal. He's very game to win this race. You can see, though, it's a pace-dominated race. There's no closers at all. This race is going to be run in a totally different fashion. He's going to have to do it around 2 turns as well. And I'm not totally convinced that the 71 Bayard accurately reflects how good he is right now.
The 8 Scipio finished behind Artislis in the career debut, but that was going 5/8 of a mile, and you can argue that the winner that day had a better trip than this one, who conceded a lot of ground in the early stages before picking him up late. I think the distance is going to be just fine for this horse, and he should get the right setup. Hopefully, he shows a little bit more gate speed, and that is not uncommon for second-time starters.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can see him. If nothing else, he's closing the gap on Artislis in here. He got out of the gate about a length slow there. He was outrun early. After that, his rider, Rispoli, did everything right. He got him up. He followed Artislis basically around the track, and he finished up right with him. He just couldn't really gain any ground on him. There was nothing wrong with his debut. This horse got bet that day, too.
The 9 is Saber Tooth. This is a half-brother to the multiple Grade 1 turf winner going to Vegas. And although a maiden going into this race on Sunday, has run very well both times. Both starts finishing second, beaten less than a length. And last time out was the Ivan the Great race. He was the beaten favorite that day, but he was very close to that fast pace and was still digging in at the end.
Yeah, I appreciated the way that he really fought at the end of that race, Dan, because his trip to me wasn't nearly as good as the winners. I mean, he was up close to a good pace. He stuck 3 wide, uncovered all the way around the track, and he did not give up when that horse came for him in the stretch. Even his debut, I get that there was a big pace in front of him first time out when Show of Force beat him. He got into a little traffic, though, around the turn, and you saw that's the replay that we showed. I mean, this horse was really running at the end of that race.
The 10 Mischief River is going to be making his turf debut. He was a well-beaten second in the Best Pal last time out after a debut win at Los Alamitos. There's a little turf pedigree here. He's by champion sire Into Mischief out of a dam, a half-sister to Harmonious, a multiple Grade 1 winner on the grass.
Yeah, there is enough turf here. I mean, it's kind of surprising to me that this is the race that they're going to run him in, but maybe they just feel like they're going to meet the right kind of a field here, and he is well enough bred to handle it. His debut was fine. His Best Pal was fine. I'm not going to be surprised if he can go with these horses on the grass.
Pally Kitten, the expected pace setter on the Timeform US pace projector, was part of a very fast pace when beaten by Artislis in her career debut on turf. They switched this one to dirt last time out, got it done when entered for a $100,000 tag. Expect speed here, but distance and pace pressure might work against him.
A lot of questions that this horse is going to have to answer in this, but I don't necessarily think either of his races are bad, but they're not. It's not like they're great either. He's going to have to improve for sure.
The 12 Toppers at Seaside makes the turf debut by first crop sire Instagrand. It's still too early to tell how the Instagrands will do on the turf. The dam placed on the surface and foaled a couple of turf winners. She's a half to a stakes place turf miler named Bloodline. Well beaten in the debut on dirt. It's going to have to improve markedly.
I mean, there is enough turf pedigree to try it, I guess. I don't know why they have to try it in a stakes race first time out, especially off the debut where he just didn't really do that much in a slow race.
Uncle Dude, the number 13, is another horse coming out of the Ivan the Great race, was a second-time starter that day, stretching out, so already has a 2-turn foundation under his girth. I thought he ran okay in this race. This is not an easy post position.
Yeah, he did not get a good draw in here. I actually felt like he ran pretty well in his turf debut also, and certainly improved. He debuted in a pretty tough field anyway, but I did think he maybe took a step forward on the grass last time. He's got to improve again.
And completing the field is the Calbred, number 14, Johnson's Magic, beaten favorite in his debut against Calbred Maiden Specials. He was beaten that day by one of the horses he'll be facing here. Jock's second call, stretching out, tough post.
I mean, almost an impossible post for this horse, stretching out for the first time. We saw that replay earlier on. He didn't seem like he had much of an excuse there. He was second best.
Two horses on the also eligible list, but I have to be honest with you, I'm not sure I'd take either one of them if they show up.
Yeah, I don't care if these horses get in. I'm not taking either one of them.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Mar Juvenile Turf. You're going with Sabretooth, well-bred, potentially unlucky in his first two races,
Yeah.
but he showed he could run in those starts.
That's what I thought, Dan. I mean, I guess we'll see how they bet the race because they did bet him pretty hard last time, and maybe they'll go back to him again. But I thought he was probably best in his most recent start, even though he didn't win. And I thought he showed enough in his debut to make you think he's got some talent.
The four coach Chuck is interesting to both of us. We both have him in there. I think I'd like to use him stretching out if he gets the right setup. Artislas, to me, was very professional in his debut, and I think that running style and professionalism will serve him well as he stretches out in a full field with a lot of pace in front of him. 9134 for Mike, 1743 for me. It's the Mar Juvenile Turf on Sunday. Good luck.